So, Michael, I'm guessing tonight we're going to talk about the dangers of drug use.
I was thinking we would talk about who has the bigger jerks, either the broadcast business, like the management in broadcasting, like program directors and general managers, or people that used to work as management at Circuit City.
All right. Well, we could have that debate, but let me just start off by saying screw you.
This is what you were telling me before the show, Dan.
I didn't mention Circuit City once.
He said the auto industry.
I said the auto industry.
Oh, I think maybe it was Beth mentioned Circuit City. Somebody did.
That would have been accurate. Anyways, he's Mike. I'm Dan. We're in the blind. Welcome to In the Blind, everybody. He's Mike. I'm Dan. Nice to have you all here. Michael, show them your new background.
Broadcasting live from Joe's House of Meth.
We've mentioned it many times on this show. It is now a product, at least only one product at the moment, but it is a product. If you go to itbshow.com right now, you can pick up the world famous, often imitated, never duplicated Joe's House of Meth t-shirt. itbshow.com. Be sure to get yours now.
It's good to have merch. And it's a real place. It's right next to Weird Steve's house. So
it is, which is only like 5 blocks from the bunker where we broadcast from here. So
exactly.
All right. So if you're new to the show, we're weird. That's half the fun. Yep. We have no idea what we're going to talk about. That's why the show is named In the Blind. Producer Beth, sitting across from me, has a devious look on her face. She's going to give us 2 different topics to debate, discuss, and unpack. We get 20 minutes each on those. And then after that, we do a lightning round where it is true-false questions. We've got 5 of those, and those are a hoot as well. Are we ready to go?
Oh, sure.
All right. Give us the first question.
Okay. Yesterday, on Sidebar over on the Courtroom Files, a conversation came up about something judges often experience in real courtrooms. A judge's job is supposed to be applying the law, but in practice, judges frequently find themselves doing a lot more than that. They end up acting as counselors, social workers, sometimes even asking questions that sound more like a doctor or a parent. Things like, why aren't you taking your medication? Why aren't you following the treatment plan? Who's helping you at home? And that raises an interesting question about society more broadly. Historically, there were several layers of accountability that helped shape behaviors long before someone ever ended up in a courtroom. Families, communities, religious institutions, schools, even just the simple idea that if you behaved badly, people around you would notice. Most people growing up in previous decades had at least some version of what you might call a healthy fear of consequences. Not constant punishment, but an understanding that certain lines shouldn't be crossed. But over time, many of those informal guardrails seem to have weakened. Today, we often hear conversations about trauma, social pressure, systemic issues, or personal struggles, all of which can be real factors in a person's life. At the same time, critics argue that society may have swung too far in the other direction, where personal accountability sometimes gets lost in the search for explanations. So the question, if institutions like courts are increasingly being asked to handle problems that once might have been addressed earlier by families, communities, or social norms, what actually keeps a society functioning? Laws, culture, fear of consequences, or personal responsibility?
You guys, this is Dan's topic. I can just sit back and listen to Dan wax poetic on this one because this is clearly written for Dan. This is like what he preaches all the time. Daniel, have at it.
Well, let me start the clock.
Set it for 3 hours
Right.
and go.
Yeah, I'm not even going to need the discussion lanes here.
So you asked what keeps society functioning.
Yes, laws, culture, fear of consequence, or personal responsibility.
Well, first of all, hi again, everybody. Buckle up. Make sure you've got a beverage handy, whatever you need to sit here for the next 3 hours. But you know what? I would argue that society does not function. That's where I would start. You're asking what keeps society functioning, not this. I don't think it works the way that it should. And we talk about it on the other channel in a lot of different ways, but if we want to leave the more faith end of things out of it, which I will often go to, and I'm sure we'll get there at some point in the next 18 minutes, 19 minutes, but you know that it doesn't work the way we're currently structured just based on the other thing that we often talk about, which is the enshittification of everything. And a lot of that has to do with the lack of personal accountability, whether it be individually, whether it be in your work, especially in your work, because the work just has to be done. But people don't perform the work or perform it well anymore. And all of that stuff has a trickle-down effect. Because there are no consequences, it would seem anymore for a lot of people if you don't get your work done. So there's your fear of consequences thing. That doesn't exist anymore. Everybody hides behind their traumas and their problems and goes, oh, I can't do this today because I remembered when I was 2 years old that I didn't get the lollipop that I wanted. Or the example that we gave last night, a real world example of Candy Montgomery back in 1980, who axe murdered this woman who said, it was a 4-year-old, when I was experienced when it was a 4-year-old, gave her this traumatic memory that caused her to just swing the axe at the woman 40 sometimes. And the jury bought it. There's so many things that we could talk about in so many directions we could go here. But I think just to start off, I think I would argue that the way we are currently constructed, it does not work. Society does not function. And you need only look at how your life goes to realize that it's only getting worse every day. Michael, would you like 30 seconds before I continue?
I don't necessarily take that entirely. I would mostly agree. I don't necessarily think it's entirely gloom and doom. I do think there are compartments within society and neighborhoods and groups of people that can get along and that do function within a dysfunctional society. I don't think everything has completely gone and that we are totally lost as a society and we ought to just, hit the reset button. That said, the broader view, if we step back and take a broader view of things, yes, there's a lot of areas that need fixing. We talked about it on the other show last night, and we'll probably be talking about it for who knows how long. I think, it starts somewhere at home. Obviously, the family structures, the breaking down of that, when I was growing up, the divorce rate soared. Obviously there's something to be said for that. We have compromised standards in education. We've compromised standards in every aspect of society, right? I mean, customer service, all the way up to holding our politicians, our leaders, our so-called leaders accountable. And that there are so many things that now we deem acceptable because that's our guy on our side. And it used to be, I'm not saying that wasn't always the case and that there wasn't always divisive politics and divisive people and people were divided. We've certainly had many wars over the course of human history. But it just seems that we want to find somebody else to scapegoat, and somebody else is the problem for where we went awry in our lives. And there are legitimate issues that people have. I have a visual disability, right? So, there are some limitations, but it doesn't mean I can't do anything and that all of my problems in life are based upon that, right? So this is one of those things that it's a jumbled mess, and it's a chicken and egg, because there's no way to exactly get back to square one to fix it. There's multiple areas that would need fixing, and each one would probably chain react and help the other. So,
yeah. But my biggest struggle is I don't know how it gets fixed, other than, and I don't know that this would be enough to fix it. The only thing that I personally can do is model what's right. And I've been very clear on the other channel that that's what I try to do. At least what I see is right. If you don't agree with me on that, I respect that. But then I'm probably not the guy you want to be watching on YouTube. But I don't know how it can be fixed. But I think modeling the proper behavior and the proper approach to life is a good place to start. Let's take the three of us right now. All right, Beth is sitting across from me with probably about an 8 out of 10 migraine, judging from the look on her face. She has a broken right leg, and she's still here tonight doing the show with us. You have a broken arm. You have vision issues, a bunch of things going on in your world, and you're still here with us tonight. My whole entire world blew up this morning that kept me from doing my show. So I've spent my entire day fixing tech. Thank goodness I got it fixed now.
And you're limping.
My right knee is so bad I'm having trouble putting weight on that leg, but I am still here. Yeah. Because the work just needs to be done. The people need to do things. And we promised to make a show, so we're making a show.
Yeah.
But instead, what we see so often, and it drives me up a wall, and if you followed me long enough, you already know this, so it's nothing new. But instead of having accountability and having agency, those are two words I use a lot, accountability and agency. Instead of that, we have victimhood. And I said this probably a couple of weeks ago on one of the shows. I was like, put a 1 in the chat if you were never messed with in your life ever.
Yeah.
If everything has been clean and perfect, put a 1 in the chat. And there was one that got put in a chat, and I'm pretty sure that was put in there jokingly, because everybody has stuff. Everybody has obstacles. Everybody has things they have to deal with. And it is your job as a human being to rise above it. Just that simple. And I'm sorry if it's difficult, but you know what? Your difficulties are not unique. They just aren't. Everybody has something. And sometimes it's horrific things.
Yeah.
But it doesn't preclude you from having responsibility and agency and accountability.
But not everything is actually a trauma or horrific. No. And that's part of my issue with it. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if Michael would agree. I have chronic migraines, and it obviously affects my life quite a bit. But it seems like people who want to hang their entire reputation or their entire being around their problem, it starts to dilute the idea of actual problems, so that when they do arise in society, nobody takes you seriously anymore. And that's an issue as well. I don't know if you agree or have noticed that as well, Michael, but I do.
Well, yeah, there's definitely some of that. Look, we're all here doing this despite everything. And look, there are some times where people are victims, right? And there are legitimate victims of legitimate problems.
Yeah.
And the problem is when everybody becomes a victim and blames something that happened 50 years ago for why they're still in this position today, when it's something that's not life-changing or not that big a deal, like someone threw a carton of milk at them or something, it diminishes the real struggles that people do have. And I think it's and I think nowadays, of course, with social media and everybody with this more of a attention-seeking culture that we have, that is a big problem. And everybody just, and I get it. I mean, sometimes people just want to be heard, and people think that what they're dealing with is bigger than what everybody else is dealing with. And the bottom line is everybody's dealing with stuff. There are problems. Look, I applied for a lot of jobs in college and coming out of college. I can't tell you, I sent out over 2,000, what we used to call tapes of resumes in the business, or CDs and resumes, or MP3s and resumes to different radio stations. I got ignored by most of them. They find out I was blind or visually impaired. And suddenly I went from being this guy that had a nice voice and, oh yeah, you sound like you'd be a really good fit for our market and for our station. And we can't wait they'd bring me down and have me interview and stuff. But as soon as they found out, it would go from, well, yeah, we think that you have a great voice. Well, actually, I just don't think that you really had a passion for this particular business. I don't think you had a real passion for news talk, or I don't think you had a real passion for music, or I don't think you had a real passion for whatever we're doing, because we're trying to come up with an excuse that doesn't mean that that we don't want to have any civil liability, because we're not hiring you for the wrong reason. That's what it was. And that's a real thing. But I still kept trying, right? I still kept doing other things. I still kept doing independent voiceovers, and I'd still go out there. I mean, hell, I made money, becoming a semi-professional gambler for a while on baseball. I wore a lot of different hats for many years, to keep it going. And I had family and friends to support me as well and help out. But I cobbled it together and made it work, which is all you can really do. Does it suck that it has to be that way? Yeah, but I learned from a really young age, life isn't fair.
Nope.
Now that doesn't mean that we just go, well, life's not fair, just deal with it, and we don't try to improve things. Of course, we should try to make things better. Absolutely. But within that, we have to understand that not everything is just the red carpet isn't going to be laid out for you everywhere you go. Life is not just an expressway of green lights. It's just not for everybody. For some people it is, and that sucks when you're not that guy or girl, but that's the way it is.
Life happens in seasons. Life happens in fits and starts.
Yeah.
That's just the way that it goes. But you mentioned that you mentioned a few minutes ago that people want to be heard. Well, be heard for the right thing.
Yeah.
It used to be, and I didn't necessarily agree with this, but it was better than what we have now. It used to be when you met somebody, one of the first things you would exchange is what you did for a living.
Yeah.
Now, more often what you exchange is, here's my political affiliation, and here's the things I've been diagnosed with.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm sorry, it's bullshit. There's no better way to put it. It's a bunch.
Kalakohan. Yep.
They're just
everybody wants an echo chamber.
Yeah.
And to be reinforced for whatever their stance is, whether it's good or bad. Everybody wants to be with a group that agrees with them so that they don't have to look at themselves in the mirror.
But the irony is that if you're in a group that's an echo chamber, you're not being heard.
No.
Not being heard at all. You're being drowned out by 1,000 voices. Again, if you want to be heard for something unique, be heard for something special. Do something that stands out. Do something that makes a difference. Say something prophetic. I don't care. Come up with something other than here's the reasons why I'm broken. Here's the political affiliation I have, and here's the 5,000 voices around me in my local community echoing exactly the same things. I wrote a piece years ago, and the title of the piece, and it was addressed to my children, and it was, "Dear children, you're not special, ... yet." Because they're not. And that was brutal truth, but it was truth I thought that not only them, but everybody needed to hear. The fact that you exist on this planet does not in and of itself make you special. It's what you do with your time on this planet that makes you special.
Yes.
Now, if you are going to take that time and waste it in whining about all the things that are wrong around you and all the things that are broken in your life, rather than trying to work through them and become better for them. Nobody ever said this was going to be easy. You know, steel sharpens steel. You have to go up against these challenges to get better. That's how life works. But people want to just hide behind the challenges and instead make that their identity.
And then, yeah. And you know what, Dan, it's okay. It's okay to admit you have faults. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to not, it's okay to fail. It's okay. There's a lot of things, some people have so much pride that they won't, they want to come up with these excuses because some people are just too prideful to admit that they failed. And I can't tell you how many times I failed at stuff. I mean, it's okay. That's that's life. That means if you failed, you know what it means? It means you've taken a chance at something.
Yeah. It is necessary to fail.
Yeah.
You need the failure to grow. I've failed more than I have succeeded. And the people around me generally look at me and go, there's somebody who has their stuff together. And I'm not saying that to brag. It's just the impression that I get from what people tell me. Well, great. And thank you. But history has proven I've had myself more not together than I've had it together, because you fail and you fail and you fail and you fail. And then finally something works. How many different runs did I make at YouTube before I finally found the formula? I mean, that's life.
Yeah.
But
that's how it goes. Yeah. And it's weird, and there's a lot of things that we could do to fix it. I don't know. But I don't know. It would really take a big effort, and it's going to take a lot of people that look themselves in the mirror and start becoming introspective. And I don't know if we have that capability, or maybe we have it, but I don't know if it's so much a can't thing. It's a won't thing.
Yeah.
There's not enough people trying to reinforce the fact that it should be done.
That's I think is the thing. And that's again why I've made it my side quest over on TCF to just model how I think people should behave. And look, that doesn't mean, again, that we don't have bad days. I had one this morning. It sucked. But you know what? I worked through it. It doesn't mean that bad things aren't going to happen.
Yep.
They do. But you have to persevere and you have to work through them instead of just hiding behind it, or instead of either hiding behind your fears or approaching life without consequence and just YOLOing the whole thing and saying, I'm just going to do whatever I want. That's not an answer either.
Yeah.
Yep.
You have a very short time on this earth. You've got to spend that time working on yourself and improving yourself, if for no other reason than that improvement that you make isn't just on you. Others see it. Others will pick up things from it. I think one of the biggest problems, none of us are trying to improve ourselves anymore. And I know that's a blanket statement. Yes, there are people that are trying to improve. The 3 people that are on this video right now. Well, 2 on video, 1 on audio.
Yeah.
But we actively work on that. And I know that there's people in the community here that do, but we have to be the models and show people that there is better. Because I'm sorry, either YOLOing your life or just living your life as these are my struggles and this is why my life sucks. That's not living.
No.
That's just waiting to die. And what a waste. Because again, you only get one shot at this. And you don't know how long that shot is. Make the most of every single day, because tomorrow is not guaranteed for any of us.
True.
But I will say, personally, I feel like I live my life now in such a way that if it all ended tomorrow, it would be okay. Because I feel like I've done it as good as I can. And I still try to improve every day. I don't know. Those are my thoughts. Sorry if I monopolized. I probably did a little bit.
That's now, Dan, this is I know this is your area to preach right here. This is like your number one thing. And you know, I again, for the most part, I agree. I don't necessarily think it's completely lost and without hope, but I see where you're coming from. And I that's why I kind of was like at the beginning, like, hey man, go for it.
Well, you know what? I've spent a good portion of my life building people up, making them better, getting them to achieve things they didn't know that they could achieve. So that makes me passionate about it because I know that it can be done for pretty much anybody.
Yeah.
But what drives me nuts is that society is telling people now, and this has been a change recently. I mean, this isn't like something that's been going on for 40 years or anything. A decade for sure, though, but society telling people to hide behind their problems and make that their identity. And that is just not a winning formula. It just isn't.
That and their political, you know, I'm Joe and I have a house of meth and I am a Democrat, or, you know, I'm Steve and I served in the Navy and I'm a Republican. And it's like, dude, nobody asked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. All right. So does topic 2 tie into topic 1? Because you've been theming lately.
It does tie in.
Cool. Does Michael get to talk about this one?
Oh, yeah. Well, Michael talked last time, actually.
I did. Yeah.
Yeah, you did. Thank you, Michael.
Okay.
Saved my voice.
So we just talked about the idea of indirectly about social guardrails and the informal pressures that historically have helped shape behavior before problems ever reached the point of like a legal system. We kind of backdoored that. Things like family expectations, community reputation, religious moral frameworks, and the understanding that certain behaviors carried consequences. When those informal systems weaken, the problems they once handled don't just disappear. And again, we talked about this on Sidebar last night. Instead, they often move somewhere else. Courts end up dealing with issues that started as family problems. Schools take on responsibilities that once belonged primarily to parents. Employers sometimes find themselves navigating personal crises, mental health struggles, or social conflicts that extend far beyond the workplace. Over time, institutions that were originally designed for specific functions can begin to absorb a much wider range of social responsibilities. And it raises an interesting question. If more and more social problems are handled by formal institutions rather than families and communities, what are the unintended consequences when institutions inherit those responsibilities they were never originally designed to carry?
Okay, so to summarize, stuff is moving from what used to be family to institutions, and what's the ramifications?
Yes.
Well, the instant ramification is that the institution could not give two shits about you. I think that's the first thing. That's where I would start. You, Michael?
Yeah. This is one of those things where, you know, we start having our schools teach sex education as opposed to having it taught at home. I'm not saying that it's not that you can't have biology or sex education at school necessarily, but it's like we want to put all the burden for everything education on schools. We want to put the burden for handling problems now, I guess, social issues and mental health issues. We've just decided let's just shove it all to the court system instead of, you know, having trained professionals in mental institutions. Because we've shut a lot of that down. And the problem is this is the kicking the can down the road deal. And when you start doing that, you know, the check's always going to come due, right? So whether or not you handle it today, you'll have to handle it tomorrow. And when you handle it tomorrow, it's going to be a lot larger of a pile than it was before. You know, it works out thematically with what, you know, we see over on TCF. We watch a lot of these court cases. We watch a lot of this stuff where somebody didn't. And this is one area where I will say there is legitimate victims here where people, for example, their parents did drugs and they wound up in the foster system, and the foster system is overtaxed and the foster system has a lot of problems, and these children suffer as a result. And when they suffer, not all of them get the proper education and the proper upbringing that they need or deserve. And so then, you know, they start turning to a life of crime, and it does become their fault, sure, but they kind of started out behind the 8 ball, you know? So it's a cascading issue. And this is one of those things where the problems could be headed off at the pass if we had better measures in place, if we had all of these institutions, if we had more interest, if we diverted resources away from, hey, who can we blow up in another part of the world? You know, what big corporation can we line their pockets and maybe start spending money in our own community and getting, you know, some professionals back in, you know, really caring about mental health. We claim we do, but we don't, you know, and trying to build more communities and trying to foster, you know, a closer knit community, and actually, you know, really focusing on, you know, these local issues, because that's where it starts. And I don't know, this is, but unfortunately we don't do that. We keep kicking that can, and look where it's getting us.
Yeah. Look, we're following a normal arc of society. Societies get fat and then they get lazy.
Yeah.
And then they run to government to do things for them.
Yep.
And then they cry out that government isn't doing it right. So that's generally when you'll start to seek out a king or a strong man to fix it. And then that all blows up, and then the whole cycle starts over again. But you were talking about local communities being the answer. And that's just it, because what happens with big institutions of any kind is the solution, just because of the size alone, has to be cookie cutter to every problem. It's not individualized. So, you know, how do you make better people and make a better society and make systems work better and everything else with a solution that's just applied globally? It can't happen. You know, education, for example, look, with Eli, we homeschooled him from day one, and he's 17 now.
Well, he went through.
We did it at home, though.
Yeah.
For the first couple of years, we did an online school, but we were still in charge of it, and we kind of set the pace and everything else. And then we realized we didn't even need that.
Yeah.
And we moved on. But Grandma TCF, or Grandma ITB here, I suppose, Mama Joan, whatever you want to call her, she's in the chat. She will tell you he is incredibly brilliant. He is well-mannered. His brain works good. But we individualized everything to what he needs and how he learns. Does he have some blind spots? Yes, he does. And so does everybody.
Yeah.
There's some things he's just not as good at it as others are. His big thing is math. He's not a math dude. But you know what? Everything else he's absolutely brilliant at. But I think we were able, because we individualized his learning, we were able to kind of rally around how he learns and the things that he can wrap his mind around and be real good with. And it's made him very strong in a lot of ways.
He's also very self-aware. He knows he's not good at math. He doesn't pretend that he is. He doesn't. Yeah.
He's just really, really well adjusted, and it's nice. But it's a local solution. Global solutions don't fix anything. So, we have this need to send everything off to a bigger institution because we don't want to be bothered. But the results get us to a society like we talked about in the first segment, where everybody is now just defaulting to who do we blame? I don't want to take responsibility for anything anymore. And oh, by the way, I've got these 17 illnesses.
Yeah. Like, since when is a school system supposed to raise children? But that's what they do.
Yeah, that's what they're asked to do every day. And Michael, you made a good point with the whole sex ed thing. That's like that's a very good point when it comes to raising. So that's one of the first things that happened too. One of the first things they took over.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not saying that you can't do that and that schools can't or shouldn't, but it's just weird that parents kind of went, yeah, you know what? I don't want to do that. Let's let the schools do that. That sounds good.
Some stranger do it.
Yeah. I don't look. Do you want, and again, I get it, but it's kind of weird when you think about some 30, 40, 50-year-old man or woman talking to your 9 and 10 and 11, 12, 13-year-old about sex. Kind of weird. I realize it's under the guise of education, but they're going to have questions and you're just sitting there having a discussion. And look, man, I'm no prude. I don't get offended by anything. I don't have children either. So it does, one way or the other, it doesn't bother me, but I will acknowledge, I think it's weird. And I think it's strange that so many parents kind of just went, yeah, I don't want to have that conversation with my kid. You know what, man? Mrs. McGillicuddy, go ahead. It's part that we're already telling you to do everything else. We want you guys to be teachers and we want you to pay for your own supplies. And we apparently want you to learn Taekwondo or some sort of ninjutsu or something so you can defend yourself against a would-be knife or gun wielding person in the schools. And we want you to be able to dodge bullets like Neo. So on top of that, teach our kids about sex ed too. And by the way, here's $42,000 a year. Go for it.
Yeah.
Like, what? We have a real issue with priorities. Now I am sounding like my dad. This is my dad, in a nutshell.
It happens.
But priorities, our priorities are backwards. We have to make some, I think, if we have to have a starting point for fixing this, I think it's just the rearranging of priorities in the first place and establishing what is important to us and how we can get there. Because if we just start kind of going, well, yeah, let's do this and this and this. But even if we start trying to fix things, if we don't have kind of a roadmap for how we're going to do it, we're going to be just as lost. We're going to have all this stuff. We're going to have all these buildings. We'll have our mental institutions. We'll have our local community centers, and but we won't know how to incorporate any of this or who should have the responsibility for what. And that needs to be doled out. If everybody is responsible, then nobody's responsible. We need to, figure this out. I don't know, but, yeah, I know I've morphed into Jim Groff right there for a minute and a few less curse words.
But along the lines of responsibility, we were just talking about teachers. This one has always baffled me. And look, with the older children that I have from the first wife, I was guilty of this too. But we send our children to spend the majority of their childhood with virtual strangers. How well do you really know the people who teach your children? You don't.
No.
You just don't. But we don't bat an eye at it.
No.
We're like, yeah, whatever. We don't bat an eye until it comes out in the news that, Mrs. McGillicuddy turns out that she was inviting the teenage boys to her home after school. How many of those cases have we seen over on TCF? Quite a few.
Yeah.
But, we don't it's like we've got blinders on, like, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
That's insane if you think about it. We don't sit down and like interview the teachers before we send our students there. Yeah, they have like the meet and greet before school.
But you
But-
don't learn anything about the
No, you don't.
teachers.
Yeah, you shake their hand and go, "Hi, nice to meet you," and then you go and you get your cookies.
Yeah.
You know, there's just you don't sit down until you have like a conference, and then it's not about getting to know the teacher. It's about your teacher telling you what's right and wrong with your kid in their eyes.
Yep.
You know, and then you go, "Okay, I'll get
And we
Johnny."
assume, right? We assume that the schools and the school boards and whoever they've done the appropriate background checks, and sometimes they have, and clearly sometimes they haven't. And the other problem is now, of course, with at least here in Arizona, because we pay teachers $42,000 a year. You know, we obviously, it's weird. We have a teacher shortage. Strange that. And so now when you have a shortage of something, and if you're not willing to pay more for that something that you value as a commodity, you say it's very important. You're like, it's so important. We're going to pay you all the way up to $43,000. Okay. Well, if that doesn't work, then you're like, and we're going to lower our standards for who we hire. So, hey, Pete, yeah, we know you were the janitor. And guess what? You're now the PE teacher. That's cool, man. Thanks. Yep. And
dropping, so let's lower the standards for the students.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, you know, Mr. Crabapple over there, you're just a parent, but how would you like to be a teacher? You know what? We're going to just fast track that certification. We're going to waive that for the first year. And yeah, we'll fingerprint you, I guess. Yeah, you're probably all right. Cool. Come on in, teach. And here's your $43,000 and go for it. Well, what do I do? Do you have a college degree? Well, I got an associate's degree like in 1977. Cool. Good enough. We have a shortage. If you're, it's garbage in, garbage out. You get what you pay for. And that's one area. And look, a lot of people in my family are teachers, and I hear a lot of stories about stuff that goes on in the school system. And, these guys, if you're not willing to shell out at least a few bucks, if you claim education is so important, and it should be, because in the United States, our education system is not performing well. We are well behind other countries in math, science, and it's been that way for decades now. And that's one of the big problems. Education is really important, and we value it so much that we don't bother to pay, or at least not in this state. And if there was one area I would say we need to start fixing things, it is education, because without knowledge, what are you doing?
Yeah, but I don't think you can just throw money at it either.
Well, you can't just throw money at it. You also have to find quality people. You even if you pay someone $100,000 a year, that doesn't just fix the problem. But I can tell you this: if you're paying bottom dollar, expect bottom dollar results.
Oh, agreed.
If you buy a 75-cent shirt, expect 75-cent shirt quality.
Yeah. I think part of the problem, though, is that when it comes to education, because we're talking about building a human being, that it goes beyond just what is happening in the school. You also need what happens at home. But so we can throw all the money we want at the schools and say, okay, that school in and of itself is now fixed, but it doesn't fix the problem if little Johnny is an absolute heathen because mom and daddy make their daily trip over to Joe's house of meth.
Well, and there's issues with standardized testing. I think most people would agree with that. And the fact that at the state level, everybody teaches to the lowest common denominator because they don't want to lose their federal funding.
There's that. Yep. It's dominoes, right?
It's not that we don't
Yeah.
have smart people. It's that the smart people aren't able to get challenged. They're not able to have any curriculum that differentiates them, that actually would push them to learn and to be able to take those higher impact jobs in the future generations, because they're stuck with little Johnny whose parents go to the house of meth every day.
Right. Well,
by the way,
so
I just turned on the paid promotion flag since we keep calling out Joe's House of Meth. Anyways, continue.
It is. This is just one of those areas that, again, it by itself, you can't just fix that and then expect everything else to. Again, everything is part of a chain. It all has to work together. I said it on Sidebar last night, and it's that old saying, the chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And then, if you fix the schools, you got to fix the parents. You got to have the parents more involved, and the parents have to care. And even if the parents care, then you have to get the school boards and the superintendents to care, and you got to have the right people in there, and they have to be focused on the right things. Are they focused on fixing the schools? Or are they just focused on getting paid a lot of money because for whatever reason we pay those guys top dollar? You have to fix the administrative side of it, and you have to kind of clean up that bureaucracy that's in there. It's all about, there's so many, just to fix the schools, there's a lot that's required outside of that. And then to fix the outside part of that, then you have to fix, further out and further out. But if there is a way to do it, I think you have to start from within and work out, because if you try to go big and work down to small, you're never going to get there. And I think that's what a lot of people do. A lot of politicians run on that. Oh, we're going to, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lower taxes on this, and I'm going to do that. And it's like, look, that's neat, but that doesn't fix the problem. That doesn't fix the local problems. And unless you want to focus on the small stuff first, the big stuff doesn't really matter.
Yeah, but the small stuff doesn't get them elected.
Yeah.
No, of course not. Of course not.
I mean,
right.
It's always the big things, the big topics that ultimately don't change most people's lives.
Yep.
Like one of the big ones that's always the thing is like abortion, for example.
Ugh.
You're pro-abortion or you're anti-abortion, fine, whatever. And you vote for people based on that. But how many people actually have abortions? How much does that really change somebody's daily life?
It's wedge issues.
Yeah,
that's what people run on. The gay marriage and all this and the military spending and all. And again, I'm not saying those aren't important issues. So don't confuse what I'm saying with, oh, Mike doesn't care about the military. Mike doesn't care about gays, and Mike doesn't care. No, it's not that. It's politicians running on that are going for the soundbite, and they're going for your emotions and your heartstrings and all of that. If they really wanted to, what they would say is, our schools are important. I want to I want to get quality people in, certified. I want to get the most educated people educating our children, and and I'd like to pay them more than 4 bits. So that's where I'm at with all of this anyway. I don't know.
There you go. So much more we could say, but we should probably let it be.
Really? I mean,
yeah.
You
want to have some fun now? Not that wasn't fun.
Well, yeah, we just spent a while talking about institutions trying to solve society's problems. The lightning round isn't going to solve society's problems, but it
so say you.
But it
who knows?
The things that remind you the show is completely unhinged. and a segment where we throw responsibility to the wind. It may or may not induce nightmares. It will very likely make you question evolution. So let's get to it.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Nice.
Are you ready?
Your face is weird right now. Don't make me put you on camera. All right. So yeah, true false round. We get 5 of these, 3 minutes for her to give us the question and for us to talk it out and decide whether it's true or if she's lying to us. This is one of the best parts of the show, in my opinion. So sit back, buckle up, enjoy. Let us know if you think it's true or false in the comments in the chat.
Yes.
Ready?
Feel free to laugh along.
I am ready.
All right. Ready?
Ready?
Go.
A company developed a Bluetooth-enabled fork that vibrates if you eat too quickly.
Oh, that totally sounds true to me, but it's probably a spoon. But yeah, I'd buy into that. Because I mean, look, if your toaster needs Wi-Fi and your cat's litter box needs Wi-Fi, you know, they've got like Wi-Fi couches now.
Mm-hmm.
Your bed's connected to the internet.
My Keurig machine has an app.
Yeah.
That's not a joke. I mean, that's...
I know.
It has Wi-Fi. You put the Keurig pod in there, right? It scans what it is and it sets temperature and it sets all these, it does these settings based upon the pod you put in there. So that being said, totally would believe that there's I've never heard of it, but I would totally believe that somebody decided to make some utensil, whether it's a fork or not, I don't know, but I would totally buy into somebody made a fork.
Mike, I've never downloaded it, but I'm pretty sure this blender bottle right here has an app. I have no doubt.
Yeah.
There's an app for our washer and dryer.
There's an app for our washer and dryer. We've never used it, but it does exist. There's an app for the Legos behind us.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the Legos, they had these sets where you'd actually scan the Lego once it's built, and then it would like animate it in the app and stuff. All sorts of crazy. So yeah, I mean, this sounds like something Weight Watchers or Jenny Craig or somebody would come up with and charge a subscription fee for it.
Because everything has to have a subscription fee now. Everything has to.
$5 a month.
Everything is as a service. Windows as a service. That's coming soon. Everything else, already, your Windows Office 365 used to be you just bought a disc. It was on CD or it was on and you just load it in. Boom, you have it. Nope. Now you have to have a subscription just to be able to use a friggin' spreadsheet. So I totally believe this.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're locked in it true. Yeah, Michael?
Yeah.
All right. Don't tell us it's a spoon.
It's
I
true.
still count it as a win.
It's true. A device called, get this, the Happy Fork was designed to help people slow down while eating. The fork connects to a smartphone app and measures how quickly you're taking bites. If you eat too fast, the fork actually vibrates in your hand to remind you to slow down. The name comes from the company Happy, HAPI, which stands for Health and Personal Informatics. So the product literally became the Happy Fork, which raises a question. When did our forks start having feelings about how we eat?
Why?
Anyway.
I mean, I'm surprised they didn't put like an app. It just like talks to you. Hey, fatso, slow down there. You're eating too fast, or you eat too slow. Hey, look, what are you doing? Buying a condo? Hey, just finished the friggin' pie already, eh? Because forks are all from New York and they have that attitude.
So I know that this is the fun round, but this speaks right back to what we were talking about agency and personal responsibility.
Yeah.
I mean, fork these people. Seriously, fork them. Because there's just...
It tracks the time between bites and records all the data about your eating habits.
The
and
time
syncs every-
between bites.
and syncs everything to the app so you can analyze it later. So yeah,
Yes.
your
I want to go back and review my mastication.
your utensils are now judging your life choices.
Here's an idea. If you don't want to be fat, eat less. Move around a little bit more.
2 words. I'm full.
Yeah.
And this is a fat guy saying it. So just save your comments. Who are you judging my? Hey, I'm a fat ass just like you are. So slow down there, judgy.
I mean, look, I'm the first to admit I've got a little bit of weight struggle going on myself right now. It's weird because physically, this is the strongest I've been in my life. The amount of muscle mass I have is insane. But I have that 50-some-year-old guy belly that's a little bit hard to get rid of, and I struggle with it. But I don't need a damn fork that talks to me to figure it out. I just
vibrates.
I need to find the right diet methodology combined with the right exercise that works for me to make it go away. It's a journry.
Yeah.
A journey that does not need an app.
Yeah.
Hey, try putting me in a salad one of these days, huh?
Good heavens. All right. Again? Ready?
Yep.
Go.
In medieval Europe, Mike loves these ones. A punishment called the scold's bridle was primarily used on men accused of spreading political rumors.
The scold's bridle.
Bridle.
Well, bridle implies woman or a horse.
Yeah.
So what was the year on this?
No year. Medieval Europe.
Michael, doesn't it have to be true then?
Has to be true. Must be.
Just based on your own rules?
I don't know if it was called. See, this is one of those things. She'll say, well, it happened, but it wasn't called that. But it's gotta be true.
Do the gotcha questions.
My only thing is, so read the question again, please.
In medieval Europe, a punishment called the scold's bridle was primarily used on men accused of spreading political rumors.
I have a problem with it being men. This was a time when they would shut up women, not men. Now but I mean, they would shut up men, but if the king had a problem with what you were saying, he'd just have you killed. Wouldn't punish you. Just silence you.
It seems like it, but even so, just based on my rules, I mean, I have to keep consistent with my rule book, and I have to go along and say that's it's got to be a true thing.
I'm gonna differ with you and go false because something about it just isn't sitting right with me, which means, of course, it'll be true. Yeah, Wahoo just put in the comments, oddly specific for only political rumors. Maybe that's what's not sitting right. But are you locked in at true and I'm locked in at false?
Yep.
All right.
It is false.
Yay.
The scold's bridle, you are actually onto something, Dan. Sometimes called a branks, was actually most often used against women labeled as scolds because they were accused of gossiping or arguing or speaking disruptively in public. The device, this is the part that is just frightening. It was a metal cage that was fitted over the head with a plate or a spike that pressed down on the tongue, physically preventing the wearer from speaking. In some cases, the person wearing it would even be paraded through the town as a form of public humiliation.
I've seen pictures of this thing now that you mention it.
It sounds very
through the description I've
Tale
seen it
to me.
Yeah.
Sounds awful.
Yeah.
The idea of punishing men for speaking in that time frame just didn't sit right with me. Because honestly, if a guy was saying something and getting noticed that much, they just run a sword through him.
Yeah, they just cut his head off.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was primarily used across Britain and Europe, and there's still devices that can be found in museums. So there's proof out there.
There you go.
Of this metal cage thing that kept women from talking.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Neat.
Well, there you go.
All right.
Every rule has its exceptions.
It does. Ready?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Number 3.
Scientists have discovered evidence that modern humans interbred with an ancient human species, even though we have never found bones, tools, or archaeological sites from that species.
Does the species have a name?
Well, if I gave a name to it, then wouldn't that imply that it was true?
No, because it could just be part of your lie. It doesn't matter.
The question
Well,
doesn't have a species name. It's just more.
Aren't we looking for the missing link? I mean, aren't we? I mean, this seems true.
We all have a certain amount of Neanderthal in us.
Yes.
And we all have a certain amount of Genghis Khan in us. I would buy into this personally. I think I've read something about it or seen a documentary on it. That there's certain strands of our DNA or whatever that don't quite fit with the rest of it. It's probably Martian.
No, I would say again, it sounds like something that I have certainly heard about. So yeah, I would go ahead and say that's probably true.
I'm kind of on the true train myself. Are we good with that answer?
True train. Whoop, whoop. Yep. All right.
Done. True.
It is true.
Yay.
Genetic studies of modern human DNA have revealed traces of what scientists call ghost populations. They're ancient human groups that left a genetic fingerprint in our genomes, but have never been identified through fossils or archaeological tools. Researchers discovered this by comparing DNA sequences from modern humans and ancient relatives like Neanderthals and Denisovans. Some segments simply didn't match any known population. So the only explanation is that our ancestors interbred with other human relatives that scientists still haven't physically discovered. It likely happened tens of thousands to more than 100,000 years ago.
And they likely never will discover it.
Well, they might. They're finding stuff every day.
I know this is controversial, but I would be willing to bet that missing link is off-world.
Or it's just buried quite a ways down. There's a lot of stuff that's buried pretty deep.
Yeah, but there's a lot of evidence in ancient literature, like the Book of Enoch, for example. You know, Enoch is known for having walked with God. Another read on that is Enoch went on a spaceship.
Yes.
So I would not put it past the realm of possibility that others have been here and affected the gene pool just a little bit.
It's possible.
But I don't know.
Can't rule it out. That's for sure.
Can't. Anyways, that was 3, 4.
That was 3.
This is 4 now?
This is 4.
All right, go.
There is a species of frog where the babies develop inside the mother's skin and later emerge from holes in her back.
This reminds me of when Peter poked holes in the frog so it could breathe.
That's just what I was thinking too. I
was picturing the frog out the window.
Well, that's what happened afterwards as he tried to dispose of it.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Oh, there you are.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm here. I hear that beep. Anyway, it's weird enough that I do think, though, it could be true. It's kind of weird. Like, it's something I've never heard about it, which is odd that I wouldn't have ever heard about this. But, and again, maybe I did, and I just dozed off during that in biology. I don't know. No, it sounds crazy enough to be true.
Can you read it again?
There is a species of frog where the babies develop inside the mother's skin and later emerge from holes in her back.
See, but frogs start out as tadpoles. So are we saying that they're tadpoles that emerge from her back? Because that doesn't make sense either, because I believe the tadpoles come from eggs.
Yeah.
This has to be a toad, not a frog.
True. Good
I'm gonna
catch
go
on that,
false.
Dan.
I'm going to go false. I don't buy into this one. I'm not a frog guy, but I am a fish guy. I used to keep aquariums before we came to Arizona. And so, I mean, there's a lot of like fish stuff I could talk about that's weird. Like discus, for example, they were like hard to breed forever. Nobody understood them. The common thing with fish is once the babies are hatched, you remove them or the parents will eat them. But with discus, they'd lose just huge crops of them. They would just you'd have hundreds and maybe one would survive. But it turns out that they actually feed off of this mucus that the parents create on their skin. So there's weird out there.
There is weird
Yeah.
out there.
But that one, I don't buy it. I think it's false.
You know what, Dan? I think you sold me on it. I was certainly leaning with true just because it's so weird and so and the detail was oddly specific enough that I thought maybe it could be true. But yeah, it doesn't. From a science standpoint, from a biological standpoint, it doesn't really make sense. So maybe I think you've convinced me that it's false.
If it's anything, I'm guessing it's a toad. But
yeah, I could see that. But
okay, so it is true.
okay,
it's called a Suriname toad, but it is still technically a frog. So let me just put that out there. The toad has one of the strangest reproductive strategies in the animal kingdom. During mating, the fertilized eggs become embedded in the skin on the mother's back. Her skin actually grows around them, forming dozens of tiny pockets where the embryos develop. Weeks later, those pockets open. So it's kind of like bubble wrap, I guess. And fully formed baby toads emerge from her back. So they literally pop out. It's evolution said, let's add some special effects to this one. I don't know.
so it's a toad, but it's a frog.
Yes.
So it's like a trog.
A trog or a frode.
Yeah. But not a
All right.
troglodyte.
No, different.
I can give you the whole taxonomy if you need me to.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
It's interesting though.
Yeah, I mean,
Nature's weird.
Yeah, that's why I said at the beginning, I was like, it's weird enough to be true. It's like the detail was specific enough that I thought maybe it could be, but it didn't sound like it made sense. But yeah, it's a toad frog toad.
It's a extreme departure from how we normally see a frog develop. A
Yeah.
little too extreme for me.
But if you think about it, because I was actually debating whether I put this one in or not, but when you were in school, I'm sure everybody heard this, that one of the criteria for a mammal is that they give birth to live young. That was always taught to me. Technically, that's not true because there are mammals that do not give birth to live young. The kangaroo is one of them. So there's a lot of things that get oversimplified to explain taxonomy to children in school that really isn't fully scientific.
So how does the kangaroo give birth? Does it give birth to a dead young and then another kangaroo comes along with the set of the paddles and shocks it into life?
It's not.
Admittedly, I'm not familiar.
It develops inside the pouch.
Yeah.
It doesn't give birth through the pouch.
So what does it do? Give birth and then shoves it in the pouch to finish cooking?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
Right,
But are we saying it's not alive when it comes out?
according to the definition of like the scientific definition.
Oh, now we're into a when does life begin argument.
Yeah. Well, no, not that. Just it doesn't fit the definition of live young.
Okay. That's another discussion.
See it to 175 degrees, put in there. All right. And boom. Life.
Life. Thank you, Michael. Weird. All right. This is number 5.
Yeah.
All right. Ready?
Uh-huh.
Go.
Human stomach acid is strong enough to completely dissolve razor blades.
I'm not going to go test that.
No, nobody tests this. We're not endorsing this.
Don't try this at home.
This is not the next internet challenge, please.
Yeah.
The Tide Budget, the razor blade dissolving in stomach acid challenge.
Stomach acid is strong.
It is.
However, people will also eat like pennies and then pass them later. Although what we're not factoring in is time.
Yeah.
You know, we're not saying that it has to instantly dissolve it. But is it strong enough to dissolve it? I would probably buy into that because, you know, I've vomited up some pretty acidic stuff in my day. And it's left me pretty burning. You know, holes.
No, for sure.
You know,
I have a few too many Irish car bombs, and
it happens.
You'll dissolve more than just razor blades the next morning.
Right? I solve whole relationships if you take it too far.
That's just from Taco Tuesday. You know what, man? I would say it's certainly a possibility.
It feels true to me.
It does. It feels very true to me.
Want to go with true?
Yeah.
All right, we're true.
It's false.
Oh, please.
Although your stomach acid is definitely not something you want to mess around with. Human stomach acid is mostly hydrochloric acid. It's extremely strong. It's around pH 1 or pH 2. It's strong enough to break down food and kill lots of bacteria, but it's a myth that it can dissolve solid steel objects like razor blades. The metal would corrode slowly over time, but it wouldn't just completely dissolve. So it would get rusty and hurt you because your digestive system isn't designed for razor blades. But yeah, we're not built with a metal recycling plant inside our bodies.
Well, that's not how I was picturing it.
Yeah, I was thinking like
I was picturing it from extract the acid, put it in a petri dish with the razor blade, and see what happens.
Yeah, just let it sit there for like 30 days, see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it would just corrode. It wouldn't dissolve.
Are you sure? Give it enough time.
This is what I was told.
I have a mixture in my shop where I take vinegar and I put it in a jar with steel wool, and it will dissolve that steel wool.
I know.
And creates this wonderful proprietary brew that we use in some of our products.
Yes.
Anyways.
Interesting.
Well, the more you know.
Yeah. Now, all you have to do is take a chemistry set, everybody. Just take some hydrochloric acid and go ahead and slap a razor blade in there and see for yourself. See if it really does work. But don't actually put a razor blade in your stomach. Let's try not to do that. I'm trying to avoid civil liability here.
Yeah.
The guys on YouTube, they told me that if I took the razor blade and put it on my gut, that I would turn into a diamond.
The guys on YouTube did not say that.
No, we did not.
However, we are telling you to go get your Joe's House of Meth t-shirt over at itbshow.com.
Absolutely.
that's a safe thing that you can do
Yes.
that will honestly cost you less than if you swallowed a razor blade.
Yeah.
Now,
Because
if you get pulled over for speeding and you're wearing a Joe's House of Meth shirt, you know what they're going to tell you? That's a
They'll
great
laugh.
shirt. Where
Yeah.
did you get it?
Yeah.
And you might get out of a ticket,
You might.
or you might not.
Make a cop laugh and you got him by the balls. I think that's how that saying goes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got my mom out of a ticket once, but it was because I started crying.
Yes. That's the woman's trick.
Yeah. We were on the way to take my SATs, and if you're late, you can't take them. And she got pulled over, and I lost my ever-loving shit and started crying. And the cop is like, "What is wrong with you?" My mom was so furious that I was crying. She's like, "Shut up." And then I got her out of the ticket, and I was like, "See, now you owe me."
Fair enough. All right. Do you have any other shenanigans for us tonight?
No.
All right. Well, I think we'll leave it there, but we'll be back on this channel on Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 specific time.
Yes, and they can sign up for the notes.
Yes, go to itbshow.com.
Oh, yes.
And after you get your Joe's House of Beth shirt, sign up to receive the show notes. Beth sends them out after every show. You get everything that she's written up, for good or for bad.
And we
And
have
read through.
daily trivia
Yep.
on the
Oh, yes.
tab as well.
Yep. Community tab of this channel. You can play along every day. There is a trivia question. And with that question, the answer to the previous day's question is also revealed.
Yes.
So check back daily.
Lots of fun stuff here going on at In the Blind.
Look, you need to go out if you enjoy the show. You need to go out and recommend it to everybody that you've ever met in your entire life. Go knock on your neighbor's door. Do whatever you got to do. Help us get found, because the one thing this show is going to take people who like it, recommending it to others, because we don't fit into a clean niche here.
Yeah.
Because we're covering a lot of stuff, which is what makes it cool and what makes it fun. But we are going to need your help to grow. So hook us up if you
Right.
do so.
For YouTube, though, that's definitely makes it a bigger hill to climb, because it's not just politics or finance or education or whatever. It's, it's one of those broad areas. It's not a niche.
Yep. We are the niche.
Yes.
We
So
have
there you
made
go.
our own.
We're bucking the trend.
There you go. All right, folks. So we'll leave it there. We'll be back tomorrow. Mike will be back on his channel, the Phoenix, Arizona weather discussion. He'll have a video at some point. I'll be back over on Courtroom Files for TCF Live in the morning, and it will work tomorrow morning, unlike today. That'll be 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific, so join us then. In the meantime, have a good night. Later, everybody.
Night.
Bye-bye.